Ashley asked me, is the ultimate goal to leave your day job and start working for the line full-time? This is such a good question. I don't know if now is the time to quit my job. The fact that I have a job, I'm so grateful because it gives me a stable income. It helps fund a lot of the things that I get to do with the line. I would say my best purchase of 2024 has got to be the Margiela tabbies. I remember really hating the tabbies. My worst purchase of 2024, I feel like this might ruffle some feathers. When I decided I can sell these, and then the thought of I always wanted to start my own small business, that just like collided and it clicked. It was such an aha moment. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are doing my long-awaited Q&A. I posted this Q&A prompt on my YouTube as well as my Instagram, I think in late December. And I actually filmed this video in late December when I was back in Toronto, but I lost the footage, which is not fun. Anyway, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who submitted their questions. A lot of it is around personal finances. There's a lot for my small business. Try to do everything by categories and make sure to put timestamps down below so you guys can pick and choose which area of focus you want to hear more about. And let's kick it off. If you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Raisa. I talk a lot about my personal finances, my small business, and luxury goods. I'm 31 years old. I'm based here in Vancouver, but I was originally from Toronto. I moved out here about 7 years ago. I have a 9-to-5 job as well as a small business, as I mentioned. So I'm just juggling both, and I share a lot of that on my YouTube channel. So if you're into that, then make sure you're subscribed down below. I think I'm gonna start off with some of the Instagram comments that I got. The first one is from Melina. She asked, what was the best and worst purchase of 2024? I would say my best purchase of 2024 has got to be the Margiela tabbies. I can't believe it took me that long to get the tabbies into my wardrobe. I remember really hating the tabbies. I don't know, it just from afar when I was looking at them, I just didn't see them as comfortable or practical. I just thought that they would be really uncomfortable because of the split toe, but they are actually the most comfortable shoes I've ever worn, and the reason why is because the leather is so soft. For reference, I have the one that is the ballet flat, so I'm sure with different styles of tabbies that will differ. I do have an unboxing and first impressions that I will link over here if you haven't seen that, but that has to be my very best purchase of 2024, to the point where I started to think about getting another pair, whether it's a boot or it's the little ballerina heel. I love tabbies, and I'm sure I'll be getting more in my collection soon. My worst purchase of 2024, I feel like this might ruffle some feathers. I think it's got to be the Row Margot bag in the 12 and the 15. It's not the bag's fault at all in any way. It's my lifestyle with that bag. When that bag started to pick up steam, it was very, very trendy at the beginning of 2024, and I like really jumped on the bandwagon because I don't really do that with new bags because I want to hear other people's reviews and other people's experience with a new bag. That bag was really calling my name. It was right up my alley. There was no visible logos. It seemed really practical, and I mean, we can get to that, but it seemed really practical. The leather, depending on which one you get, I did have the smooth leather for the 12 and the 15. It was the grained leather. I just thought that bag was made for me, and with the Row just becoming more and more popular, I really wanted to jump on it. I don't know, I think it's also like fear of missing out as well. Like, it was selling through and I really wanted it. I wanted to see if it would fit with my lifestyle and part of my collection. So I ended up buying it. These bags are not expensive, and that's part of the reason why it's one of my worst purchases of 2024 because I spent so much money on them and I ended up selling them. So what ended up happening with the 12 in the smooth leather is I just put it in my closet, and I was so afraid to use it. I remember having it for January and February, and I probably took it out twice, and it was just to go to work, and it didn't even fit my laptop. So I was almost forcing it. That was an indication to me that this was not the right purchase. So I ended up selling that bag. And then a couple months later, I remember I had put my name down at Holt Renfrew asking an essay to keep me in mind if the 15 with grain leather comes in the store, and it did. And she calls me and she's like, I'll leave it here for a couple days if you want to think about it. And in my mind, I'm like, no, I shouldn't get it. But again, there was that fear of missing out of like, if you don't buy this, like someone else will, and it's going to take many months for this opportunity to happen again. And like, it really shouldn't be like that. I don't know, luxury goods shouldn't feel like they're they're already so expensive, and for it to be like a little bit elusive too, like adds to the fact that you want it even more and more. So anyway, that was a lesson learned. I ended up picking up that bag at Holt Renfrew and I bought it. And it was in the exact same size and leather that I wanted. However, didn't think that it was practical because it was so heavy. Again, this could be a lifestyle thing because you can't put it on your shoulder. It's really like a top handle or like a crook of your arm bag. And I was at the time carrying 2 laptops for my small business and my 9-to-5, and it was just hurting me like physically, and I did not like that. And then I stopped really using it because I wanted to use other bags that weren't so bad for my shoulder. There was so much weight to it. The bag itself isn't really heavy in any way, but it was just how it was being carried that was painful for me. So after not using it for a couple months, I decided to sell that because I couldn't justify $6,000 just sitting in my closet and not being used. Like, I'm the type of person, I don't have a limited amount of money, and I know that if I'm not using a handbag, I have to sell it. So I would say that the Romar Go bag has got to be my worst purchase of 2024 for those reasons. Unfortunate, it's a beautiful bag. Unfortunately, did not work for me, but it is beautiful. And if you have it, amazing. And yeah, I'm so happy for you, but for me, it just did not work out. Someone asked me, how do you balance financial responsibility and a desire for luxury goods? That is such a good question. I basically grew up not really having a lot of things. I have had to work so hard to be able to pay for these luxury handbags, and I actually have my luxury handbag collection go live a week ago, and I tell you the entire story of how I afford these handbags and what handbags I have purchased and sold and kept in my collection. I'll link it over here. I remember my very first handbag was such a big deal for me, and honestly, buying a handbag in general is always a big deal. It's not something that I just walk up to a store and I'm like, I want that. It's always a lot of months of thinking about it and planning it and researching it. I watched so many YouTube videos and TikTok videos. And to your point about financial responsibility, the way that I see it is if you work really hard and you prioritize saving and investing, like those things are covered, your basic living expenses are covered, you're not going into debt for these handbags, and you have some extra money to play with, then that's your money to put towards whatever you want. People have hobbies and different things that they're into. For instance, someone might put their money towards video games, for example, or cars, or whatever that looks like for them. For myself, I like luxury goods, I like jewelry sometimes, and handbags, and that's what I choose to spend my money on. I always prioritize saving and investing, and if I have any money left over, or if I want to put that leftover money into a sinking fund so that I can fund a handbag at the end of the year, like that's how I balance it. It's always making sure that everything that I want to prioritize first has been handled, and make sure I'm not going into debt for any of these things, because honestly, no handbag is worth going into debt for. You want to make sure you're able to sleep at night, and going into debt for a handbag is just silly. My savings and investing are still growing, and that's not being hindered by a bag, because a bag is just a thing, and it's not a need, it's not a necessity. But putting money towards your future self, I think that is the better decision. If you don't have money left over at the end of the month, maybe you wait for next month, or maybe you pick up a side hustle so that you can fund whatever thing you want to put that money towards. Okay, I think we have to transition into the financial pieces now. There's a lot of questions about finances and how it relates to my small business and how I balance my small business and my 9-to-5. So let's get into those. Ashley asked me, is the ultimate goal to leave your day job and start working for the line full time? This is such a good question. I feel like a lot of people have this question because I do post content about my small business a lot and talk about it a lot. And I hope you guys are seeing, or I hope it comes through on camera, that this is such a big passion of mine. I do eventually want to quit my job and work for myself. I just don't think I can do both. I'm really lucky because I get to say that I really do love my 9-to-5 job. I have landed right in the perfect spot, and I've grown my career for the last 7 or 8 years. with this specific company, but in general, over 10 years, I want to say, of working a corporate job. And I think what I realized is that I want to learn as much as I can from the current situation that I'm in, and then take those learnings and do it for myself. And I think that's what I've been building for the line. And I don't know if now is the time to quit my job. The fact that I have a job, I'm so grateful because it gives me a stable income. It helps fund a lot of the things that I get to do with the line, right? If I didn't have my 9-to-5 job, I feel like I would do things a lot differently because I would be strapped for money. The way that I see it, I'm just really grateful that I have this job. I'm not going to be quitting anytime soon. So right now, my biggest thing is really just managing both and making sure I'm not burning out. And one of the things I've tried to do is delegating the work. So hiring people for the line has been such a game changer. I'm so grateful for my team. And basically, I'm using the resources that I have, so the money that I have, to hire people who can do the work and delegating. And that was a really big lesson I had to learn last year. I've never had to hire people or delegate the work. The line is my baby, and for a long time I'm always like, no, like this is mine. I don't want people to get inside of it because I don't know, maybe if people look under the covers, it's not, I don't know. I have these things in my head, but I've had to let those things go to be able to grow the company, because if I didn't, that would hinder the growth. So I guess to answer your question, yes, it is my ultimate goal to be able to run this business without having my 9-to-5 job. But at the moment, the 9-to-5 job is really helping me grow it. And that makes me really, really grateful. There's a lot of questions like this, so I'm just going to see if I can answer all of them at once. Someone asked me, how did you come up with the products to sell on the line? I would like to open up an online store, just don't know what to sell. I love this question. I came up with the line back in 2020. So during the pandemic, we all had so much time in the world, and I have always been in the e-commerce space. And for a long time, I didn't know what it would look like, but for a long time, I knew I wanted to open up an e-commerce store, specifically on Shopify. I am familiar with e-commerce, and I just knew that is my bread and butter. But what to sell was really hard. For a long time, I wanted to play with jewelry. Then I wanted to play with maybe secondhand luxury goods. And those things just didn't pan out. So I would say that if you're looking for what to sell, think of things that you're interested in and just try, right? Like do your research, maybe get some samples in, do some low risk things that will allow you to continue your momentum forward, but you'll learn through those. I don't want to call them mistakes, but you'll learn through those experiences. So for example, with jewelry, I actually worked with a jeweler. I got some samples from them, and then I did some research around the market and who are the big players in the jewelry space. And what I learned in that research is that jewelry is actually a very saturated market. And I knew that I wouldn't be able to stand out. Like I wasn't passionate enough about this topic to be able to stand out in the market because there's already so many big players within that space. So I pivoted. The way that I landed with planners actually had to do with a problem that I wanted to solve for myself. So as I mentioned, I started this when I was working from home, and I was never a planner person at all. I wasn't very organized. I would go into meetings not really taking any notes. But when it came to working from home, I knew that to be able to keep up with the work that I'm doing, I had to have an agenda, I had to have a planner. And when I started to look at planners and what's out there, they were just not what I was looking for. So I ended up creating a whole line of planners, and they started very small, right? It's not like all of this just happened overnight. I started with a very small sample size. I primarily created for myself. It was a problem that I needed to answer for myself. And then one day it kind of just hit me like, oh yeah, I can make these, but also I can sell these. So when I decided I can sell these, and then the thought of I always wanted to start my own small business, that just like collided and it clicked. That it was such an aha moment of like, I was independently creating planners for myself. And then the notion of like, oh wait, people will find value in this. Like that all just came together in one big moment for me. And I'm like, oh yeah. And then once I got going with that, I couldn't stop. There was so much momentum. I was so excited about it. So I would say try a bunch of things. Think of a problem that you have, and maybe other people have the same problem and you want to solve it and it doesn't really exist in the market, or there's a small niche of people who are interested in this, and start there and see what you come up with. Ashley asked me, any new products coming to the line? Yes, we had a big collaboration last year with Alyssa Lenore. We're doing a part 2, which is really exciting, so stay tuned for that. We're doing so much with Zoe Pritchard and adding more digital products into the line's website. So everything to do with like budgeting and debt tracking and sinking funds and all of that, that is all in the works for this year. And if you saw my goals video, I'll have it linked if you haven't. If you saw my goals video, one of my really big goals this year is connecting with a brand and doing a partnership with them. I don't know what that all looks like, but I'm really putting it out there. I would love to work with a brand and just bringing the brand more on the forefront. I feel like it's still quite niche and not a lot of people know the brand, and I just want to do more with like community and brand building and all of that stuff. So that's what I'm really excited about for 2025. Jen from Cash Stuffing Canuck asked, can you share a glimpse into how you plan your week to manage your corporate and the line responsibilities? How many hours do you dedicate to the line on outside of your corporate job, and how do you fit in time with your partner and friends? I struggle with this right now as I work 7 days a week. Yeah, I already mentioned that I work quite a bit. I think when I was first getting started, that was my busiest because I was starting from absolutely nothing. I was designing the planners, I was contacting manufacturers, I didn't have systems set. I think that now, 4.5 years later, I have a pretty good system that I've got going here, plus hiring people to support me in packing and shipping. I don't need to be in the office as much versus in the past. What it looked like was I would do my 9 to 5 job, and then from like 6 to 10 or 11 p.m. I would be doing stuff for the line, whether that's creating new designs or answering emails and packing and shipping. It was a lot, and I'm so glad that I went through that because I have an appreciation for everything. I know all the different aspects of what it takes to be a small business owner. You wear many, many hats. For myself, in terms of how I get organized, it's going to sound like I'm promoting my business. I really do use my planners and the agenda, and I have a daily planner because I'm a daily planner kind of gal. There's people who do weekly planning or monthly planning. I do monthly planning at the beginning of every single month. So I lay out what my month looks like and update it throughout the month if I need to. I like daily planning because throughout the day I have meetings and priorities that I need to do. So on a daily basis, I do use a daily planner. And in terms of making time for my partner and friends, this is a really big priority for me. Those are basically non-negotiables. I am trying to do better with friends and making time for friends, but definitely with my partner, we go on walks once a day. We always have dinner together. Like, those are my non-negotiables, just so that I know that I'm not losing sight of what's really important. It's not all about money. The money is nice, but if you don't have people with you at the top, then that can be very lonely. So I know that, and I am prioritizing these things. I hope that answers your question. I know that it's easy to work long hours and 7 days a week, but sometimes it's not worth it. And try not to lose sight of what's really important in your life. Shannon asked, any tips on maintaining balance with work, life, and small business? Delegating the work has been really, really good. Now that I have this office, I really don't bring work at home anymore. Ever since like moving everything into a different space, I don't like have to pack and ship when I'm at home. Everything gets done here. And even then, I trust my team to be able to do it while they're here. I don't have to pack every single order because I know that someone is coming in to do that. Versus in the past, I would be like, I don't know if they can do this, or only I can do this. Like, that is not true. What I'm practicing is trust in the team that I have hired, and know that they can do it and that they are capable. Shannon also asked, is your corporate job super supportive of the line? Yes, they are, and I'm so grateful that they are. I feel like I have the best leader. I have been with her for the last 6 years, and she is just the most supportive person. Even my director is so supportive. They've been with me from the very beginning of the line and have just been so supportive. And I know not every corporate job is like that, so I feel really grateful. Okay, now let's talk like personal finances. Someone asked me tips to get started and stay consistent with budgeting for 2025. Great question. The biggest tip I will say is know where your money is going. And what I mean by that is tracking every expense that comes out of your account, whether it's a fixed expense or a variable expense or debt repayment, whatever that looks like, or savings or investing. And that's why I always say you need something to track, whether you're writing it down or a budget tracker. I personally use a budget tracker from the line. I find it really easy because it calculates everything for you, and I really make the time to write down every single expense. And to some people that's like, oh, that's a lot of work. Honestly, if you are trying to be serious with your finances, this is a game changer. It can actually be really fun. If you start to know where your money is going, that is how you take control of your money and your financial situation. It will be really, really, really hard at first if you aren't doing that right now, but there will come a point where it will be fun and you just feel confident and in control of where your money is going. So that is my biggest tip. If you don't already have a budget tracker, start tracking your expenses. And January is the perfect time to do that. Someone asked me, how do you and your partner split your variable expenses? Great question. We split our groceries 50-50 as well as dining out, unless it's my treat or his treat. In terms of like hobbies, I would pay that fully myself 100%. So let's say I got into knitting or snowboarding, I would pay for my lift ticket myself and he would pay for himself. But anything that we're splitting, it would be 50-50. Emmy asked, do you have any plans to try to pay off your mortgage early or make any extra payments along the way? I find it hard to strike a balance between paying extra on our mortgage and investing in savings, so would love to hear your thoughts. Thanks. I don't currently have any plans to pay off my mortgage early. I think I just got my mortgage, I want to say a year and a bit ago, and our mortgage payment I would say is pretty high. I personally pay around like $1,600 a month, and my partner does the same. So whatever the math is on that, that is our mortgage payment for the entire month. And it's a lot because cost of living here in Vancouver is a lot, and truthfully that is probably the most that I want to pay on a monthly basis for a home. And it was already an increase from when we were renting. I think when we were renting, I was paying like $1,180, something like that. So it was almost an increase of like $500 as a monthly living cost, which was a lot for me, right? It was definitely an adjustment. I had to cut in a few other places to be able to afford this, but we knew that coming in, like we knew living downtown and living in Vancouver, like it's all part of it. And to us, it's worth it. I'm not saying that we regret the decision and it's too much. I'm not saying that at all. And I feel like we made the right decision staying in the area that we're in. It's just that that is the most that I want to pay, at least right now with the income that I have, is $1,600 a month. So we're not really thinking of paying anything more than that. So we're not trying to pay it off early. Not to say that we won't try to do that in later years, but I think right now we're comfortable with where we're at. And personally, I do want to prioritize investing in saving. So I do put down around $400 for investing and saving a month. No, I put down $800 actually, because it's $400 biweekly. I put down $800 a month into savings and investing, and I feel really good with that. Like, to me, that is a really good balance of making sure I'm still saving for my future self and still putting the amount of money we need for our mortgage. My answer might change in the future once hopefully I get a bit more income, or I get a lump sum of money, or whatever that looks like, and maybe that goes into my mortgage. But for now, $1,600 on my end and $1,600 for my partner is what we're comfortable with. I'm really having a hard time filming downtown because there's so many like little noises happening outside. I hope you guys can't hear them. I forgot these questions in the small business part, so I'm gonna answer them here. Someone asked me, how did you come up with the idea for your business? What was the first step you took? And someone said, what prompted you to start your business? Were you concerned about oversaturation in that area? So I think I touched on this a little bit of how I got started. The reason why I got started is it was a problem that I had, that I wasn't a very organized person and I wanted to be, but there were no planners or agendas that I saw that really resonated with me at that time. That's really how I got started. Step one was designing and trialing them out. So going into Adobe InDesign, have a little bit of experience with InDesign just because I've had to use it for university. So that was a plus. And I started designing on paper first and then putting them on InDesign. The next step is to test them out. So there was a lot of trial and error and testing out what these designs would look like in an agenda. So I got myself a printer, printed out the designs, and I cut them to the specs of the planner, and then I tried to use them for a week and a month and made changes based on what I thought I wanted the page to actually look like. You won't get it the first draft for sure. I think that there's a lot of trial and error when you're coming up with your first product idea. What was good about this is that everything was print on demand. If I find an issue with one of the designs, I could just fix it in InDesign and print another one. I didn't have to buy anything in bulk, basically. I feel like when you're starting a small business, you have to really commit to a certain amount of inventory, and that is a lot of what the cost of starting a small business is. But for myself, it was, you needed paper, just design it on InDesign and then print it out. So that was great. And for a long time, my small business was pretty much print on demand, because when I started the website, there wasn't a lot of traffic driving to that website. And anyone who ordered, I was just able to fulfill them based on what they've ordered, and I would just print out that exact amount. Over the last couple years, the brand started to pick up some steam, and then I was able to carry inventory. And then now that I have this office space, I do have some inventory in here, and we've also expanded to agendas. I think if you're trialing out a new small business idea, start with something pretty low risk, like a print on demand, or maybe even digital products. I also have digital products on my website, and that you don't need inventory for at all. I actually think if you want to start a digital business or a digital products business, that is the way to go, because all you need is time and creating value for whoever is purchasing this. If you're creating value, putting in the time initially and putting it out there into the world, whether it's Etsy or you're putting out your own Shopify website, you're not holding any inventory. There's nothing like physical that you need to ship out, because if you go with something physical, then you have to think about packaging and what that looks like. For myself, packaging was a huge thing. I had to research so much. I put a lot of effort into our packaging just because it is someone's first impression of the brand, right? And that is a really big deal to me. So if you want to start off just trying to see if your idea is going to hit, I would say start with something low risk. Like, I also want to say one of the reasons why I've become pretty successful in this is through all of the lessons I've learned, through all of the books. I'm going to list a few books down below that really helped me grow this business. A lot of it is like mindset, some of it is a little bit more tactical, but these books and just reading books in general has helped me remove any limiting beliefs that I have, or come up with newer ideas on how to market something. So I'll have that link down below. If you are an aspiring entrepreneur or small business owner, I've also started to do one-on-one consultations. So if you have questions about how to start a small business, or just want to pick my brain, or have an idea, you want to run it by someone. My camera keeps heating up. I think it's because I've talked for so long, but what I was saying is I have 2 services available, whether you want to do a mini coaching session, which is 45 minutes, or if you want to do a full one-on-one with me, I will have that link down below. Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you. Some topics we can chat about are budgeting or personal finance. If you want to improve how you're handling your finances, we can chat about that. Or we can also chat about small business related things, because after 4.5 years, I feel like I have some knowledge to share, and especially if you're just starting out. But yeah, I'm going to sign off here. Thank you so much for watching this Q&A, and thank you for submitting your questions. And I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.